Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, the Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Ho, ho, ho. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Merry Christmas. And I'll tell you what, today was just something else. I am sending prayers out to anybody who's a little chilly. It was 8 degrees here this morning. There is frost on the ground, and Jack Frost is nipping at every nose out there. So welcome. Tonight we hope to warm your hearts. This wonderful chat is definitely going to warm your soul, as it does ours every Sunday and Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Journey Through the Gate. Now, you would say, isn't it crazy? They rushed through their day, and tonight they gathered to have a Christmas or holiday show, whatever you celebrate. Today we are talking about Christmas because it's Christmas Day. Actually, it's Christmas night here. Wherever you may be, it may be tomorrow already, Ted Branson. It may be chilly and cold where you are, but like I said, we are going to try to warm your hearts tonight. And Edna and Vixen Doe, and Are You Kidding Me? Uncommon Belief and Blue Crossroads, our love to Shauna. And, I hope today was absolutely wonderful for both of you, and you got to spend time together, and we're sending lots of love and healing vibes your way and big warm hugs. We love each and every person in this chat. Tonight we have a wonderful show for you, and we have the wonderful friend of the show, Lynn Monet. But before I bring her in, I did a little vid that kind of explains a little bit about why we gathered here today. Lynn and I talked about this, and on our last show, we talked about the years and years she had in the medical field in end-of-life care. And we talked about loved ones coming to help cross over a person's soul as they transition, and all her wonderful insight on that. And we talked a little bit about what goes on the other side. We also talk a little bit about how spirits give signs, and how our loved ones give signs to us about, they're here with us, and they hear us when we, talk about them, and they're here when we celebrate things like weddings and births and birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and things like that. So that's why we're together here tonight, to talk about Christmas spirits, the spirits that are around the clock, 24 hours a day, 365 days, and everybody's here. Welcome, Facebook user. If it's Mike, hello. And if it's not Mike, hello to you. And there's a little thing above that on Facebook that you can hit that allows StreamYard to give your name if you want to. You can do that, or you can just stay in here as Facebook user. We love to have you either way. Love you, and Merry Christmas back to you. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Festivus for the rest of us, and whatever you celebrate. Thank you. Thank you for my nice hat. It has a very long little bumpy ball there, and it's almost like a scarf as well. So, or you can fill it up with things, and there's all kinds of fun stuff to do with a hat. But it's like our friend says on Facebook, it could be a microphone. So anyway, for tonight, I just wanted to set the mood. We had a little bit of music. I got to play a little bit of the Christmas animals for you. But tonight we have Lynn, and we always try to welcome Lynn in, and you guys too. She has a wonderful new book out, and just wanted to say a couple of things about that. And tonight, welcome in, Blue Heron. Here we go. I hope it comes out clear. And I apologize for anything that didn't come out clear last Monday night. It looked good to me, and then I went back and looked. So I'm looking into that. This is new. We're doing it on Microsoft. So pardon us through all the kinks and everything else. We're going to try to do our best, but you know us. This is the Hot Mess Express. So woo woo, all aboard. Here we go. There you go. Yes, there it is, Bobby, Silent Night. And without further ado, the lovely and beautiful Lynn Monet.
Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa, whatever
Kwanzaa.
you celebrate.
Easter.
Yes, that too. All that.
Bring it all in.
That's right. And any of those people that are from Africa, I understand that your holiday starts in about 14 days. So happy holidays coming up with that.
Happy holidays to you. Oh my goodness. It's wonderful. Yes, all across the board, because I'll tell you, the spirits, in the afterlife, they don't care what holiday we celebrate, as long as we remember them and we're happy and we are celebrating life, and
That's right.
we're enjoying our life and trying to move forward and be the best us. I think this is really like soul school, Lynn, right?
It is, and this is the hardest planet. We are seen as heroes when we cross over to the other
Absolutely.
side. So
yes, that's so true.
I wanted to make sure that everybody did on the new moon. We had a new moon on December 23rd. It's a very important one because it's also the final lunar eclipse of the year, which echoes over a 6-month period. So it's important that you set your intentions. It is in Capricorn, which is a hardworking planet, but we've got Jupiter that has gone fully direct. So that's our benevolent planet of money and success and all good things. So please make your intention. It's not too late to do a prayer candle, to do a prayer and let it go into the sky, and be specific. If you want a red rose with no thorns, and you say that you want a flower, you may get any flower. So be specific. You want that red flower with no thorns, to be exact, and put down your wishes. I wish for all of the things that you wish for, because this is setting your intention for the coming year of 2023 for the echoing of the next 6 months. Keep in mind, the Mercury is going retrograde on the 28th. We are in the shadow of it. Really, this communication thing, it won't affect as much for this type of prayer, but when it comes to shopping and purchasing things, just hang on to your receipts and and understand that communication might be a little bit off. But definitely get your wish prayers out there, because you got the fairy godmother of Jupiter out there ready to grant your wishes. So take the opportunity.
Be very specific. That is the number one thing. And when you talk to your guides, to be specific too. And a lot of things, times that people, it helps people when they say to their guides, look, you got to make it so I can't talk myself out of it. You got to put it right in my face if it's a sign, that kind of thing, because we will talk our way out of things too. Mods are dropping Lynn Monet's, it's lynnmonet.com. It's right here on the screen right now. That's where you get her wonderful books. They are omnipresent, and the second book, Omnipresent, What Happens Next, correct?
Yes.
And then this one, The Colors of Heaven, and all of those are available now. The ebook is still available, or the hard paperback?
Paperback and ebooks are available in Omnipresent and Omnipresent What Happened Next. Ebook is available for Colors of Heaven, Beginnings Never End. I will be getting that out in paper book hopefully within the next 2 months. I have a fourth book coming out the end of January called The Gap. It's not paranormal related, but it is adolescent and teen related. What else your adolescent and teen should know? Everything from not going on a date with smelly sneakers to what to do if a condom breaks. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's a spectrum right there. That's a wide spectrum.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep, and it encompasses all of this newness. Let's just put it that way. That it might even be confusing for parents. So it's a good read for parents too. I recommend that they read it before they let their child read it, to make sure that they feel it's appropriate, because it is not candy coated.
There you go. And a lot of times things really don't need to be candy coated at this point. We need to just get it out there. I remember when I was in I think it was second, third, maybe fourth grade, probably third grade. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. There was a big thing about that, because I had a couple of things. Listen, if you were a young girl that didn't have somebody to talk to, that book really helped out a lot of people. And, we can't all believe that everybody grows up in a situation where they have somebody to talk them through a lot of this stuff. So that's going to be really great. Good for you. Good for you. And, but like I said, tonight we're talking about spirits. Lynn has been, if you haven't met Lynn before, Lynn comes on every, last Sunday of every month, which is this one here, but she's also going to be on a lot more often. We're going to come on. She's going to come on a co-host with guests. I'm going to have Lynn pick some guests. I'm going to pick some guests. We're going to talk, because we're kind of leveling up the podcast a little bit to get to the next level, because there's so many podcasts out there right now, and every single one of them fantastic that I watch. And talking with Steve and with Lynn, it just seems that we keep almost like, even with like say Bigfoot or ghosts or anything like that, we have the same information, and we just keep talking about it. Like, is this video real? And that's fun to do. There's no doubt. It's paranormal investigation. That's fun to do too. There's wonderful things to go off into this. But we also need to get to the point where we start realizing that almost taking it for granted that love is eternal. Our spirits go on, our energy goes on, our loved one spirits go on, and they feel separated from us in the physical, but they're so there with us in so many other ways, right, Lynn?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, absolutely.
So many. And Lynn and I both have stories, and she's going to tell a little bit about, what it might be like on the other, on the other side in this afterlife we're talking about. And, I'm going to throw in some things too, but I also want to touch on things the way that spirits come through in holidays or weddings or, different things like that. That's, when you're talking about them, they hear you, and you might not feel it at the time. You might get that warm and cozy feeling because you have a memory, and you might think that it's that warm memory that's warming you. But I think in some ways it's when they connect in with you too, you're feeling. you're feeling that warm and tingly kind of sensation. And I have a great, before we're done tonight, I have a great, actually Christmas, spirit story, that when my mother came through and literally told us everything she saw, and it was an amazing thing the
Mm.
way it happened, and that she had seen the whole scene that played out and everything that was going on, and made sure that we knew that. And if that happens once, it can happen again. And there's some people that it could happen to all through their lives and they still question it, and that's fine. That's a normal human thing to do. But I think we need to also come to a point where we just, okay, this is for real. What's the next level? What can I do to help others through this? I think that's one of the things that we're here for. That's why Lynn and I are taking our night on Christmas night and asking you to join us and take your night and join us, so we can get to that information that's going to help others through this. There's so many people suffering, so many people, going to come back and repeat certain cycles and things again because they're just not understanding, what it's like to go through this lifetime now, and I think we do have some of those answers. We do have a knowing about certain things. And I think if we can just get those mile markers set, it can really help us on our journey. Just like these, what was said here in this little video, these wonderful animals that came into my life, Spirit and Boo, I don't think that was by accident. I believe that is not by accident. We talked to Rob Guttrow last week. I don't know if you saw all that, Lynn,
I
but
did.
he was touching. Oh, did you? He
Yes.
was touching on the things where certain animals will lead you to another animal that might need your care or be specific for your needs as well as theirs. And those
Mhm.
animals will help you do that. I passed over, when I say 1,000 pictures, it's no exaggeration, because I was looking for, 2 weeks just at eyes and faces.
Mhm.
And I think in a way I was trying to heal, but I was also looking at all these other animals that needed love and needed a chance and a home. And, to pass over so many and stop on that one set of eyes and call and find out that that kitten was still there. And it happened to be Spirit. And that's
Mhm.
why his name's Spirit. Find out that he was there and I could get him the next day and it was no problem. And, I took his brother as well. And, the way they fit in here, the little things that they do, 3 o'clock in the morning the other day, I was woke up with both of them sitting right there, touching my face with their cold little paws and my
Oh.
lips, which is what Dickens used to do. And, Rob told me that a lot of times if they're there, they'll almost influence the living animals to do
Mhm.
things that they did. And it just is a comfort.
It is
It's,
to say hello too. Yeah.
yeah, it's a comfort. So all these things are out there for us, and we tend to miss them in our busy lives, don't we, Lynn? We just
Yes, we do.
glaze right over them,
We
you know?
do. And I
Um, Go ahead.
good. And I totally agree with what you're saying. I actually went to a place this called Animal Care, and it's a pound type thing. And
Mm,
I was just drawn to this one. I looked through all of these dogs and I was drawn to this one room that I went into that was almost completely empty. The cages were almost completely empty. They were
mm,
just starting to fill up a few of them in the very, very far left-hand corner, top and bottom. So I walk over to see those on the left, and all of a sudden I notice on the right-hand wall, there's one dog in that whole wall of cages that is on the top. And I'm like, what is this? And I walk over and I noticed that on his tag, he had been dropped off when he was 5 weeks old. So
oh,
he was,
jeez.
wasn't even weaned from his mama.
Mm,
And he was about 10 to 11 months old at this, yeah, I'm not months old, but no, he was almost 3 months old is what it was. And there was a tag that was dated 2 days before and it was circled in red. And I stuck my finger in the cage and he started to biff at it like a cat. And I'm like, oh, this is just too cute. So I
oh,
asked if I could see him, and I asked them about the date on the thing. And I assumed that he'd been neutered and that was the day that, they would let him go with somebody. And it turned out that that was the final date for him to be put down.
ugh.
And the only reason why they allowed him to stay in the cage was because he was young and he was, a puppy. And they said that if those cages had filled up, he would have been one of the first ones to go because all of those cages had been emptied out by animals that were destroyed. So I took him home and got him. Here we are, almost 9
Here
years
we are.
later. Yeah,
It's meant to be.
it
It's
is.
meant to be. Hey, Sarah, how you doing, darling? Hello, hello. Bacon to everybody out there. And, again, I want to welcome everybody in here and thank you so much for taking time from this wonderful day. If you're out there, if you're driving, if you're trucking, Andrew trucking, if you're out there, we say hello to you. Anybody that's on the road, please be careful. I hope
Very.
that you are warm and that you are comfy and you have electric and you got your lard candles, Ted. Everybody is warm and cozy and that's the most important thing. All the extra stuff, that's what it is. It's extra, So I'm hoping everybody is safe and warm today and
Oh, me
just
too.
feeling the
Yeah.
love that we're putting out there because that's the number one thing is the love. It's so hard now and the things that we see it's so easy to get angry and to get mad at people, and that's one of my number one things. I'm Scottish Cherokee Lenape redhead, Jersey redhead. My anger is right on the surface, so I always have to bring myself down and go, okay, that's human emotion. It's something that I need to get through and forgive the people for. You don't need to forget, but if you forgive them and you forgive yourself for the reaction, you are on your road to healing. You might not be able to understand why the other person is doing what they're doing. They might be there just to, oh, I love that cup. They might be there
Thank you.
just to test you. They don't know it, but they're pushing on your buttons so you can practice at being better at that one thing. And that's a fact. That
That is.
absolutely happens, doesn't it, Lynn?
Yes, it does,
Yeah.
especially the little old lady getting on the interstate that's holding up traffic and everybody's cussing her out. But
Mhm.
what you don't realize is 5 minutes down the road, if you were clipping on, along at the pace that you were going to go, you could have been in a very bad accident. So she was your earth angel at that moment. So next time,
Yeah.
say thank you and understand that there's a reason for it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. That's terrible. And that's it. You can get angry. It's okay to get mad. But you also have to wonder, you kind of if you could pick it apart and go, why is this irritating me?
Mm-hmm.
Are you irritated? Are you mad? Are you angry? Are you just losing it? There's different levels, but you could figure why does that irritate you? Maybe if you can figure out what was the first thing that started, of course, in your case, I can understand why you'd be angry. Somebody dumped a container of syringes out in front of her place. This world is
Oof.
getting crazy. It's absolutely getting crazy. But that's the point of that you were picked as a light worker and a light grounder. If you're listening to this show, more than likely that you are one. You're a
Yes.
gatekeeper. You're a light grounder. Like I'm going to hold that light right here
Mm-hmm.
in the darkness, and I'm not going to let anything around me be dark. I'm just going to be that light. It doesn't mean your light doesn't flicker. It doesn't mean that you're losing it. It doesn't mean that that flame doesn't almost like spurt out. You just light it back again. And sometimes we need each other to dip in, and get a buddy light off of another light worker because we're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn and push through those things. And I think that's one of the things that the dead are dying to tell us, because time and time again, Lynn, it's been my experience through other medium friends and psychic friends, whatever label you want to put, that have abilities. They come through and they say, this one victim of a terrible crime, was fighting to come back. And when they finally got the message through, it was stop, stop, wasting your life with this, vengeful, like a justice thing that you're trying to do, because it's eating your life. It's tearing you up. Let it go and it'll all work itself out the way the universe needs it to work out. I have forgiven the person who did this to me. You need to let it go and and let me move on too. I mean, that's a kind of thing, or you hear that too, don't you?
Oh,
It's
yes,
amazing.
absolutely. And not only that, but those, whatever you put out is almost a manifestation of what you'll get back in the future. So it's really, really important to keep your emotions harmonious and
Right.
balanced that way, because that vengeance that you're putting out at that person is something, it either you down the road will have a person similar to that come into your life so that you can be tested to see if you got the point, with the time before, to see how you react,
Mhm.
or
Right.
and things like that. So it is very, very important.
Hmm. And you can't stop yourself all the time, and that's okay. It's like, think of it being on a spiritual diet. If you
Mm-hmm.
have that cookie, and I say eat the good cookie, do it because life's short. You don't say to yourself, okay, that's it, I'm done, I give up, I'm just going to keep on, and if you do, that's okay. But it's like a spiritual diet. Just because you messed up or you got mad, maybe this time you didn't take it as far. Maybe this time you caught yourself and said, you know what, this isn't doing me any good. That person at work is just, there's nothing I can do about it. Maybe start looking for a different job. Maybe stop reacting to this person. Maybe just ignore them as best you can. Whatever, try different things. If you can't do that, then maybe just take it inside and understand, kind of come out of it a little bit and look at the whole thing and see, okay, did you just ask for patience? Because if you just asked for patience, this person was just sent in to let you practice that. Like Lynn said in the beginning, be very specific, because your guides are also, okay, she wants to practice patience. Well, let's get her on an elevator with this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, things like that happen, you know, and you start to laugh. Like Dan and Brinkley will tell you all the time, the way he used to react to things and the way he, reacts now is totally different. A lot of NDE people will come back and tell you they look at things totally different now. That, sometimes it's one and done. With Daniel, it was like 3 times, I think, that he had to go back and come back and to where he snapped in and got it. And now he's an advocate for the same thing we're talking about tonight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe, like I said, with Dickens, because this is such a, an early, such a passing that's so close to us, and this is our first Christmas without him. And I kept saying, he was going to be here. He was going to definitely be here. He's going to be the angel at the top of the tree this year, but you can feel him around. You can feel that warmth. And, when you think about him, I smile, the same thing when I'm doing little things. Like I told you guys, of putting up my mother's manger, which is like, I think 70 something years old now. When you flip over the sheep herder and the 3 wise men, it's stamped 15 cents on the bottom. That's how old these things are.
Oh,
They're
wow.
Italian plaster of Paris. You imagine, hand painted, beautiful, done. But that's how old it is. But taking it out, I'm smiling and remembering her and go, I remember you, Mom, and I remember putting this out when I was a little kid and learning about the whole thing. And it made it very precious and a lovely memory. To not celebrate that, I think, would almost be a sin. It's too painful. I don't want to do it. And if that's your choice, that's fine. You're moving through it. Maybe do little at a time. Some people don't even want to spend the celebrate holidays because of memories or losses, and that's totally understandable. You have to do you, but understand that they don't want you to be sad. They don't want you to stop living. They don't want you to mourn them to the point of, how did Rob Guttrow put it, almost self-destruction. They want you to live and to be happy and to remember them with happiness and love, because that's how they remember you, and they are connected in. This, as you saw in the pictures there, my son gave me, and if you know anybody that's lost an animal or a loved one, this is one way to do it. Now you can't really see it too good. The picture was great in the thing, but it's a little sterling silver necklace, and it's a picture of my Dickens. You send him in a picture, and the
Oh.
very thing on the back, this is an amazing gift, and thank you again, Uncommon. On the very back were the last words he heard me say before he got the shot, and I said, love is eternal. And that's what it says on the back here, and that's our message tonight, is love is eternal. So don't tell me Mr. Dickens isn't here with us tonight, because
He
he
is.
is. He absolutely is. And what a sport he is. I'm telling you, he's still lighting candles on and off and doing other things. And I think he's like one of my little spirit guides, and animals can be spirit guides. I have several animal spirit guides. So
Yes, they can.
Lynn, if you would like to just kind of recap for anybody who may not have been here, the years you have in medical, as an as a end of life, um, helper there. Please tell us a little bit about that, so we can get a little background on you as well.
I've been a nurse for 37 years. Don't tell anybody.
Wow. Wow.
17 years of which has been in geriatrics and end-of-life care. I've seen hundreds of people pass away, and I've actually been there to assist. And the most profound moment for me was actually seeing my mother cross over. And it just, getting to see all of what occurred with that was so beautiful and so loving that I wanted to share it with people, and hoping to help take the stigma of death and dying away with that. Mm-hmm. So there is a beauty to death that people miss during the time that they're grieving. There's even a period of time that you can communicate with the other side. I think I had mentioned the story about the blind lady, Edna. Mm-hmm. If you'd like me to repeat that again, as a prime example of,
please do.
Yeah. In my nursing care, first of all, when people are ready to cross over, a lot of times they know that their time is coming, and they'll start talking about it. They'll also start mentioning seeing spirits that are coming in, even as long as a year within that time frame, that they'll talk about seeing them. But I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to tell you about, and the thing about also, there's near-death experience, there's sudden death, and a near-death experience, and they're all kind of handled differently on the other side. And most people have a natural death, and this is the part that I'm going to be talking about first. My mother, before she passed away, she went around to people telling them that she was leaving the next day. And she even spoke to one woman and told her that she would take care of her dog for her. The dog had been put down 3 days before. And my mother told the lady that she would care for her dog until the lady would cross over when her time came to retrieve the dog. And lo and behold, my mother, she passed over a little after lunchtime the very next day. And a lot of times these people know this. But the thing about it is that when people start to get ready to cross over, a lot of times they do start talking about loved ones in the room. And the thing is most people are uncomfortable with that. So they want the nurse to bring in the medicine and make the person stop talking about the spirits in the room. And when they're talking about spirits in the room, it's not somebody that they don't also know. So in the case of Edna was completely blind. She had been blind, totally blind, no shadows, nothing, for 10 years. And I didn't know her that well. She'd only been on my unit for a couple of weeks, but she was actively transitioning. And her son and daughter come to my nurse's station, and they say, "Mom's talking to people in the room that aren't there." I said, "Okay." I said, let me come down with you and see if there's something I can do to make her more comfortable. So when I walk in the room, she's sitting she's sitting elevated up a little bit with her head, and she's reaching into the sky, like she's reaching for something very, very delicate that's being handed to her. But it was something fragile, because she was just very, very careful with the way that she was receiving it. And she was grinning from ear to ear. And I walked in the room and I asked her, I said, "Edna, who's here?" And she says, "George." Well, her daughter had to sit down, because her daughter says, George is my father. My father's been gone for X amount of years." And then Edna speaks up and she says, "And he's glad that you're taking good care of Pixie." Well, Pixie was her poodle. When George passed away, the poodle had to be taken by the son to care for, because Edna couldn't care for the dog being blind. So the son speaks up and he says, "Pixie, I have Pixie." Well, Pixie was an elderly dog in her teens, but she was still very much alive. And he said to me, he says, "I have Pixie." And so he asked me, he said, "Do you think that my mom's hallucinating?" And of course, I can't just come out and say, "No, I don't think she's hallucinating." I think that people, loved ones do come forward to assist. And just off a beaten path, those of you who are star seeds, everything is connected. It does come together with that. So know that it's not just about this side of it. It's all connected. Mm-hmm. There's a part with that. So Edna, so I said to Edna, "Edna, I said to the son first, I said, I don't know what your belief system is. I'm not, trying to change anything." And when he had asked me if I felt she was hallucinating, I turned it around and I said, "Well, do you think she's hallucinating?" And he says, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, again, I'm not trying to change your beliefs or anything, but in my experience, sometimes loved ones do come forward to help assist the transitioning soul over. And I said, so let's just try something. And he said, okay. So I asked Edna, I said, Edna, can I ask George a question? And she nodded her head yes. And I said, George, what color is your son's shirt? And she said, yellow. He was wearing a yellow Ralph Lauren polo shirt. And keep in mind that this woman cannot see a
Mm,
thing,
mm,
nothing. But George could see the yellow shirt and answered through her. And that's just a lot of times, too, when people are transitioning, because
mm.
the filters he face, they're able to hear the telepathy, which is the spiritual communication, as well as they can hear the human verbal communication in the room. And a lot of times, I mean, you can learn so much from a person that's dying if you can, set your grief aside. How
God,
many
yeah.
yeah, I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, oh, I wish I could tell somebody, that I love them one more time, or I wish that I could tell them that they're sorry, or you
10.
wish, that you can ask somebody what they did with the toaster. This is your time. And the person that's transitioning can answer for you. Your whatever the question is, the spirit, they can hear the spirit's voice and they can relay the message to you in a verbal way. So, but I have so many stories to really, really bring this home, and I'll be happy to share. I that way if you want me to.
Anything you want to share, darling. Merry Christmas, Missy, and Merry Christmas to anybody who's just coming in. I wanted to tell you real quick. Now, this is a
Mm-hmm.
surprise to Lynn, too. This week, again, just because I'm sitting here and I'm saying this and that, and everything else, it doesn't mean that I don't have a hard time with the emotion. I told you that last Sunday with
Mm-hmm.
Rob. It was very hard. His book was written about cat spirits. I just lost my best friend. I mean, that's just how I see it. I mean, it's, we all talked about different things we do to get through it. I still have his rolled up blanket that I won't let anybody touch.
Oh.
It's been, and that's just the way we're getting through. And I filled them with kittens and they're getting big. And one of them's down here asleep at my feet, just adorable little sweethearts. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not to replace, it's just to love something else, because I wanted to keep that love going. I knew I needed that and I allowed
Mm-hmm.
myself to have it. So that's important. But this week again, I'm thinking about this night and I'm thinking, gosh, how can I get this through? I mean, I share movies, through Christmas time. I shared, several movies of people who had very little as a family, but still celebrated and had such a good, they had less, but they were seemed to be almost more happy, and the togetherness and the little things that meant so much. And I think over the past 2 years, a lot of us saw that, and a lot of people in here know that already. But it's so easy to forget. Be very thankful for the things you do have, and what you can do, and with the people here. I say it all the time: call the people, let them know, don't wait. Even if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, say what you want to say and let it go, because it doesn't belong to you anymore. You did what you wanted to do. So I asked my spirit guides to give me anything that would help me get the message out to you guys. And there was one movie I was really looking for, and I will get you the link to that. It is called Beyond Tomorrow. It was done in 1940s, and it is free on YouTube to watch. I realize in some countries you can't always get what's on YouTube, but if not, I would suggest you find that, the name, and search it out and get it any way you can. That movie had it right. It's about three very rich, kind of bored individuals back in 1940s New York, and they live in a high-rise penthouse, and they have this little argument, kind of a gentleman's argument about, people have changed and they don't have the spirit of Christmas, and they're, me, give me mine. And this is the 1940s now. Think about it, what they would think about today, right?
Wow.
So, and
Yeah.
this is rich guys saying this. So they got a little bet and they decided what they were going to do is they were going to take, the guy went out and bought new wallets, just little fold over billfolds, they were calling them, and put like a $10 bill in it, which I guess was a lot then, and a business card. that was it. That was all that was in the wallet. And they dropped it out the windows into the busy sidewalk
Whoop.
traffic. Oh, you okay? You're dizzy? Don't you
No.
fall down?
No,
And
my
they
phone just
love your
popped out.
tiara, Lynn. They absolutely love your
I hope
tiara.
it's
This is
not
very
a
festive. It's beautiful. No, it's beautiful. And she looks like a Christmas Statue of Liberty. We're just holding our lights up for any and all to see.
That's
So,
right.
so they drop it out the window, and they have a bet that people will just take the wallets and go. And they say whoever brings the wallet back up, we're going to invite him to dinner, and that's how we'll fill our table. And the one guy is joking, and he's more cynical, and he's like, nobody will return him. Well, they do, and the two people do, and it's a story about what happens after. And I won't give you spoiler alerts, but I'll tell you, somebody becomes a ghost in this film. And the whole thing is how the ghosts try to interact with us to help guide us in our life, and what happens when we listen. And it was very, very cool. And the other one I had never seen before. And it was a couple of nights ago, and I'm just flicking through, and I find this movie. Now I'm going to screen share this with you, and this is the first time I'm really screen sharing. So if you guys can't hear this, and if they click it off, if they try to give me a copyright on this or whatever, this is fair use. It's for educational purposes, and I'm using it. So if they cut me off, we'll be right back. But I have to share this because my guides want me to share this with you. It is called The Ravine. It's a fairly new movie. They're still getting it right in some cases, independents are. And it's absolutely fabulous. I cannot believe how much this clicks with us, Lynn. Let's see if I can get this to screen share here. You guys let me know if you see this. Here it is right here. Now, I hope you guys can see that. Let me see if it comes up. Can you?
Yes.
I'm going to look at the delay and see if we can see it up here on YouTube. Okay, we can. Now, this is it right here. It's called The Ravine. It's got a few people in it you'll recognize. It's not, a big famous cast or anything, but the acting is absolutely unbelievable. And the theme of it is when an unspeakable crime rocks a peaceful community, family and friends are left to wonder if they overlooked the murderer among them, or if there might be more to the story, inspired by true events. Now, I'll tell you, it's a lot deeper than that. And we'll see if they'll let us play this little trailer here. Let's give it a shot.
Please forgive me.
Bill, Danny just left me a really strange message. I need you to get a hold of him.
Danny? Rachel? Anybody home?
Chris, where are your mom and dad?
Tell it to Mom.
Hey, Mom, what's going on?
You need to sit down, sweetheart. Danny killed Rachel and one of the boys last night.
Hey, little man, I'll be running. I love you, Renee.
My name is Detective Ben Lee. Danny committed these killings.
You did not know Danny the way I did.
We all have one question before us today, and that question is, what meaning will we attach to these events?
This is very common for witnesses to be people with dicey backgrounds.
We need to know all the facts.
Promise me you won't hurt him, Mitch.
Where is he?
We all experience darkness. Ask yourself something. Do you want to be guided by hate?
We've all made mistakes.
Wow.
This is powerful.
Yes.
Absolutely powerful movie. It is, again, inspired by true events. Oops, wait a minute. I lost you here. Hold on. It's inspired by true events, and it is based on light and dark and the combination in between and how we fight both of those things through. Just like Lynn and I was talking about, it has to do with our spirit guides trying to help us. People with abilities and light workers that are trying to help us, that come through and try to guide us because we were contacted to help you. I believe this movie was sent to me for you guys. I had never heard of it before, and I'm always out there looking. This has been out for 2 years. The movie in the 1940s movie, Sarah, is Beyond Tomorrow, and I will, when Lynn's telling another story, I'll jump down and I'll grab that and put that in the link that link as well in the chat. The Ravine is the pinned comment at the top of our live chat, and that is free on YouTube. I can't believe this movie's free, but it is free on YouTube. I hope you get to watch it because it is so powerful the way it comes through. It starts just like that. And you're not sure what's going on. 15 minutes in, you're stuck. You're riveted. But then it starts to peel back the layers, just like in life, and you start to see, oh my gosh, this happened for this. Why did this tragedy happen? And how possibly could it have happened around us without us knowing? You're blaming yourself and you're angry and you're confused, and it all comes through in the end. I promise. It's a real life movie. It's an amazing message, and it is so real to life. I've seen this happen in my own life. I know Lynn has seen it happen in her life. We've seen it happen with ghosts we're communicating with spirits on the other side that come over to try to help a loved one. Please watch this movie. It does have a little, of course, there's a crime in the beginning, so I can't say it's, for kids, but watch it and see what you think. If you've got tweens or something like that, I'm sure it's fine. But it's the message where it all comes together and it's all connected. Lynn, have you ever heard of this movie?
No, I haven't.
It is absolutely mind-blowing how true this movie is, and it, like I said, is inspired by true events. These people really existed, and the psychic that's in here, she's fabulous. And it's when you see it all come through at the end, you kind of wow, and you start looking back over your life and you start thinking, who am I really mad at still? I think Lynn and I both talk about things in our life that's happened. Lynn was in a haunted house. It was so haunted she couldn't move in. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure you went through many, like, why me? Why is this happening now? But then again, it also propelled you into a whole new avenue that you probably would have never went in,
That's true.
or kind of almost catapulted you in a lot of ways. And a lot of things happened to me this way too. But this movie, please watch it. It's my Christmas present from my spirit guides to you. Watch it. And if you do, please message me and let me know. There's a couple of people, like I said, that can't get it in other countries. And I'm actually going to spend tomorrow and Tuesday trying to screen record it and send it to those people in, little snippets in their email or whatever, so they can get to see the movie too, because it's just absolutely fabulous. The way everything all comes together. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because I don't want to spoil it for you, but I can tell you something. Light wins, and it's going to win now, but you have to know that you are the light. It comes from within you, and it connects to source, and it connects to everybody else with a light. It connects to everybody who doesn't have a light, their light's dim or it's turned completely off. It's still there within them.
Yes,
They're just in a heavier part of learning. They might be learning on a darker plane than you, and they made some wrong turns. But as they tell you in this movie, we're kind of all going to the same place. And over there, it gets sorted, if you know what I mean. And Lynn, if you would like to talk a little bit about that, what happens when we get there, and what's that kind of sorting about? Is there help? Are there ethereal beings that help us through it, our loved ones and people that know what to do once we get there? What happens to us when we get there?
The thing is keep in mind too that the only thing that prevents you from crossing over is yourself. So there are souls that do choose to remain earthbound, and their reality is completely different. They continue to wander the earth. They continue to have their cause of death show. They still have all of their senses, their addictions, any mental illness. all of those sorts of things. And those are usually the ones that are haunting your house, or you hear wandering around slamming cabinets and things like that. And a lot of times too, something darker will also kind of anchor with them as well, kind of almost holding them prisoner in that fourth dimension. We're on the third, the other side is on the fifth, and that fourth dimension is kind of it's like a holding area almost. But when people pass away naturally, as I had mentioned, that there's natural death, sudden death, and near-death experience. All of them are handled differently. In the case of natural death, when your loved ones come, there is a beautiful reception that is prepared for you with your loved ones. The people come forward first, unless you're a person that would feel more comfortable having your animals come first, because you have a whole party with the humans, but you also have a whole connection and party with the pets, separate almost, because they want you to be able to give them your undivided attention in that way. And it would be so overwhelming to have both while you're hugging and greeting people, to have a puppy that you want to pick up and pet. And you need that moment to actually sit down and let them crawl all over you. So
heck yeah.
And don't be surprised. And don't be surprised if you have an elephant approach you. You may have had a pet elephant in a past life, and they are still there. A white buffalo, something. You'd be like, what on earth? And keep in mind too that with lives, energy cannot be created or destroyed, as the scientific term says. And there are a lot of other solar systems out there with beings similar to us that also have to cross over and go somewhere. So their energy is also on the other side. So you may even have some pets on the other side waiting for you that are pets that we don't even have here. You might have you might have a unicorn. You might have, something. You might have a T-Rex. You just never know. So, that all of them are there, and they will greet you. So don't be surprised if the ground starts shaking while you're standing on it, because you've got a big elephant coming to hug you.
And that's so true. Lynn is not the first one that I've heard this from. This is, again, these shows are compiled with my friends that are here at this level of understanding. This is stuff I had confirmed 40 years ago from people. This is all, and I can only come to one conclusion, is because it's the truth. I've got people spirits coming from the other side to talk to loved ones, or help to cross a ghost, because they do that as well. And they're saying the same things, people all around the globe, mediums and psychics, and and people with NDEs that come through, they're saying all the same things.
Yes,
that we can we can visit our animals from other lives, will come visit us, because they know if they haven't been chose to be reincarnated, or something else. But again, there's this level of almost, even if they have reincarnated, it's like their spirit on the other side, their soul, it's like it's split, and you can still visit with that person, even though they're going through another life here or in another place, because this isn't the only place you can reincarnate to. Am I right, Lynn?
That's absolutely true. Very true. And a lot of times with NDEs, like for instance, my father, he had an NDE. And when my father was not a religious man. As a matter of fact, he was a raging alcoholic that was physically abusive, a very, very angry man. And he went to have a physical done, and the doctor checked him, and he had a bulging vein in one eye, which indicated a clot was occluding one of the major vessels somewhere. So they immediately sent him over to the hospital, and they found that the clot was so big that they couldn't dissolve it in time, and he would have been dead within 12 to 24 hours with a major stroke to his head. So they went ahead and they operated, they removed the clot by hand, and he was in the recovery room. So he had made it through the surgery, everything was good. But when he started to wake up, the nurse was standing there putting some morphine into his IV, and he had this overwhelming voice come over him and saying, no, don't take that. And he verbalized it. He says, no, I don't want that. And of course it was too late. She had already put it through. She already flushed it through. through the IV, and she said, "What, you don't want this?" And he said, "No." And he said that the room went pitch black, and then he was in this tunnel, which a lot of times they'll talk about crossing over a bridge, or they'll talk about being in this tunnel that is dark, but yet it's very loving and warm with glistening like gold stars all around. He talked about being aware of the other spirits that were in also, some of them in limbo, kind of waiting, and also ones that were crossing over. But he talked about the fact that he could be in 6 places equally at one time. So he was able to, he had 6 children. One had already, my youngest sister had passed away. He was able to see her briefly. But he was able to be with each of his 5 children and his new wife, to the point that he actually even told me the shirt that I had on, which was my favorite shirt. I was in a different state. He had never seen it before, but he described it to a T. It was a unique shirt. So when he was telling me about the story, and he actually went through part of his life review, and when he had to look at all of the pain that his drinking had caused and how badly he had hurt people, he was then given the choice, which sometimes you are given the choice of whether you want to continue to cross, or whether you want to return. Now, he knew after being with all 5 of his children that we would have been okay if he had passed. But his wife was from Russia. She didn't know how to drive a car or balance a checkbook. She wouldn't even be able to get herself to the grocery store. So he realized that he needed to stay longer and teach her how to drive, and get her on track with the way that things are done here in America. So he chose to come back. But when he came back, he stopped drinking, and he became this very, very humble, dear man. And he had the opportunity then to come forward and apologize and say, "I have not been the best parent, but I loved you very much in the way that I knew how, and I am so sorry, for anything that I did." And he made his amends with my mother, who was his ex-wife, with people that his sister, people that he had hurt very, very badly in this lifetime. And then he went on and lived for 10 more years until he was 93. And by then, of course, as he had everything in order for his bride. So a lot, they do cross over and change. He didn't go through a complete life review, but he was brought to the point to see the part that he needed in order to make the changes that he needed in this lifetime, so that he had a purpose when he came back, since he was choosing to come back. He otherwise it would have been left the way that it was if he'd chosen to cross over. But it is handled very, very differently with different things like that. And when you do have an NDE, you don't have the whole reception of loved ones coming onto you. You might see one person, or a guide, someone that's familiar to you, that will kind of help guide you through some of your life review type thing before you're sent back. And you're told that you're going to be sent back. And that's why sometimes if you do see some of your loved ones in the distance, they're all just standing there smiling, and you have that telepathy, but not connecting with them as much, and you wonder why they're not talking to you. That's kind of why, because you're they're not ignoring you. You're just being sent back in. It's not your time.
And you're also there to do something else.
That's right.
It's a shorter thing. And what Lynn is saying is correct. I'm hearing this, from multiple different things. And my whole job at this point, from as I understand it, is to just collect all that stuff and bring it in. It goes, here's another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. That's everybody's telling you the same things. So ease up on you. That's my main message tonight. Ease up on you. Every single person, like I said, as far as, spirits, again, when I say spirits, those are the ones that have crossed over and healed their earthly burdens, and they're gone through all the things that they go through. And then they've risen above all of those things that we still worry about here.
Yes.
We're worried, whether our purse matches our shoes. What are they going to think about, my car I'm driving? What is that what are they saying at the lunch table at, in my business? Or, what's that guy really up to down at the office? Or is my husband this, or my girlfriend that? Or, what's going on? you're not responsible for what other people do, only how you react to it, and your reactions, your energy that goes out to that. You have to stop and think. I do it all the time. I have things that push my buttons constantly that I go from 0 to 90 in a heartbeat. I idle it like, a 70 anyway. And like I said, Jersey redhead, Scottish, Cherokee, Lenape. So, I have to constantly pull that back and go, why does that anger me? Then I can say, okay, well, this part angers me. This part I need to, kind of let breathe a little bit because I took it too far, or I need to pull back and wonder why that affected me, why I allowed that to affect me so much. And you start to kind of think about those things, because that's what those spirits are trying to tell us when they come back. It's like, learn, go after your dreams, pursue that craft, pursue that art that you want to do, pursue that, if you want to teach, find a way to do it. My dear sister in Florida, she's gone through an awful lot of stuff, lost her husband, had to change everything, even reached out to a cousin that's an invalid that she had to move from Charleston, South Carolina to Florida in assisted living.
Wow.
Against great odds and paperwork and everything else. But this dear woman, somewhere along the way, she loved to act and drama, and always since high school. She's very good at it, singing and everything else. She was working in a little dinner theater, kind of like a mystery dinner theater. She had to leave all that when her husband passed and go to Florida and start a new life. And I said, listen, if you build it, they will come. Well, finally, this was through COVID and everything else. She's like, I can't, nobody will come for this. Or I said, start a community theater, whatever, do what you can do. Last night at her church, she gathered, and they had the first, which I understand now is going to be an annual thing, of a living nativity scene with the preschoolers all playing the animals and the preteens playing, the adult parts, and they acted everything out. Everybody had a wonderful time. She directed and did the whole thing. Now they're going to do it every year, and they're looking forward to it. I said, see what you did. You reached out and you found something. You found that energy. You reached out and it spread. That's a light worker. That's spreading the light, instead of dimming your own and hiding under a box, or hiding, in your safe space or whatever. She reached out and she spread that light, and that's going to come back, and it's going to warm your heart and theirs. And that's going to, and there, and on and on and on. And that's kind of what we're talking about, because, if you constantly keep hearing that your loved ones on the other side hear you when you speak of them, I believe, Lynn, now you might have a better way of describing this, but I believe that when we think of them, they think of us.
Yes,
we connect into that love energy. It's like a connection. It's almost like a buzzer that goes off to them. And it's especially if you're telling a story, like when you're around the table today and you were with your loved ones, and you mention the person that's no longer there. Gee, I miss my sister who's no longer here, and there's a lot of empty chairs, or however you want to put it, at your table. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it's an uncomfortable subject. Put it right out front where you can keep an eye on it, is what I say. Of course I'm going to mention her. She's still part of the family. And of course I'm going to mention that she used to love this ornament, or she loved the nativity scene, or she loved the way the house was decorated, and that was her favorite spot. I always do that. Because to not mention them, I think, is the worst thing you can do. Just hold it all down.
That's right. And your chairs are not empty, by the way. Nope. They do sit in seats, and they don't sit on top of people, so they are present. And like Cisco said, yes, that connection of that thought. And also when she was talking before about the nativity scene that she has, the beautiful hand painted one, and how happy that it made her. Her spirit guides were with her at that time. And even if it's hard for you to connect with them, they are still present around you, and they try to nudge you and they love you no matter what, but they try to help guide you in more gentle ways. A lot of times people they're like, well, how come you can see mom and I can't see her? How come you can hear mom and I can't hear her? You can, but but sometimes when people hear them, they freak out. like, oh, I think I saw mom, and then they get all scared in the willies, and they kind of, back out of that, and they doubt their abilities, and they doubt what they've heard. So stop doubting, definitely.
God bless you, darling.
Yeah.
We have some wonderful comments. I just want to take a brief, but 100%, I agree 100%. I can't pronounce this, Lynn. Can you? Owen? I don't want to pronounce it wrong.
Miss Young.
Yeah.
Ms. Young.
Yeah, Ms. Young. Absolutely. They will meet each other and greet, because our love connections, all of them, anything that's in love, even if it's a best friend that was connected to you, something that's really cool that a lot of mediums will tell you, and I guarantee you Lynn's going to back this up, that if you come for a reading and say you bring a friend that just wanted a ride, and you maybe a coworker or something, not a real good close friend, their spirits and your spirits are going to be talking and go, hey, how you doing? I'm with her. Yeah,
that's true.
They all come together because you came together. So now their spirit, their loved ones in spirit and your loved ones in spirit are actually talking and going, okay, you go first. You go through there. Okay, well, I'll speak for you. We'll let you know I'm here. That's what they do. And they do it over there as well, because as soon as you connect with somebody, now they're connected. Okay, well, she just met you and you're dating now. Okay, and a couple of loved ones to get together and talk. And that's the way it is. We also had another one in here. I love this, absolutely, honey, you got it. You absolutely got it. This is true. And they come in your dreams. If you ask somebody who's just passed, give them a little time. Sometimes they come real quick and say goodbye real quick and then go, right, Lynn? And then they do the stuff that they're doing over there. They get a little bit stronger energy and they get a little bit more time because they're busy over there. They're not just floating around on clouds playing.
It is. And it depends on your comfort level too. So yeah.
So true. So true. And when you're ready, your consciousness level too. This young lady here sounds like she's really connected. She's got it going on, and that makes the path easier for them. When you're not hesitating and you've opened that door wide, it's just like locking your door and unlocking your door and leaving it open for loved ones to come in and out. That's kind of the way it is. But Stimulate said something here too about time. It was down here. I'm sorry, I missed it. Sometimes the chat goes so fast, but it was okay. Here, I wanted to say this, and you're welcome, by the way. Stimulate says they say time heals, but I found that to be a lie. Nothing can replace the irreplaceable. That's 100% true.
That is true.
And I think what people misunderstand is, I can remember being, again, this is my mom, and I was, I think 11, 12, somewhere around in there. And I was not allowed to go to the funeral. Nobody asked me. They just did it. Sometimes adults make, I went to the viewing and the wake, or whatever you want to call it. The two, at that time, they did like 2 days, a couple hours each day. And then you had the final, the funeral, and go to the cemetery. When everybody was going to the cemetery, I was upscunged to take it to a diner for pie by my sister, who thought that I probably shouldn't have that memory. And while we were sitting there, I do realize, I look back and go, that was supposed to happen that way. I for a while was mad that, that was done without asking me, because I thought I had a right to choose. But while we were sitting there, she said to me, and I took it from her because she had lost so many. She had lost her mother at a young age, and she had lost her dad. We had the same dad. So she was speaking from experience. But she said to me, it gets easier. It doesn't ever go away. But each day, sometimes you have to take it minute by minute, day by day. It gets easier to handle. The pain really never goes away. The only thing that helps it is love, which is why I got an early idea at 10 years old that you just need to replace that with something that makes you feel better, helping somebody, finding somebody else, adopting a pet, helping out at a homeless shelter, or something that makes you feel better, a charity type thing, something that helps other human beings usually helps replace that, but you don't ever really get over missing. And that's what this show's all about. Because the thing is, we're trying to tell you is they're not gone. They may not be here in your physical, but they can hear you when you speak of them. So I tell everybody, speak out loud, stimulate. If you've lost somebody, I try very hard. What helped me was I wrote a letter to that person. I mean, I cried on it. I wrote everything I ever wanted to say. And I was very young when I did this. I put it in an envelope, addressed it to my mother. And then I went outside and had a bonfire and I burned it, because in Native American, we send everything in smoke, so it goes up.
Mm-hmm.
She saw that. She's come back to me through mediums, later on in life and told me she was there
Mm-hmm.
when I did that.
Mm-hmm.
She heard every word I wrote, even though I was writing it and never said it out loud. She heard everything because she was telepathically. She picked it up because I was connected into her. And it helped me to release it. Yep, the pain will always stay. We just get better at disguising it. That's true too. But here's another thing. Maybe don't disguise it. Kind of put it right out front. I miss my baby. He's right here, right out front, where I can keep an eye on him, where I'll talk about him, where I'll remember him and other people might ask. And now I have something that I've put out in the universe where somebody might say, oh gosh, that's cute. I lost a kitty, or that reminds me of the cat I lost, and stimulate a conversation, because that's what you do. You put stuff out in the universe for your spirit guides and their spirit guides to use to help the next person. You see what
That's
I mean?
true.
Isn't
Yes.
that true?
Yeah. And also, this is something else. This is not the end. This is not the last time you will ever see them. You will see them again.
That's good.
You will see them again. So if you sometimes can look at it and it is a little bit that they're on vacation, it kind of helps, and not to lessen it. But if I could share
Please do.
What actually happened with my mother. I know some people in the room have already heard this, but there's some people that have not. And I think that this might help. I think if we have an understanding of where they go, that knowing that they're okay where they're at, that they're happy where they're at, helps us to look at it a little bit differently. It doesn't completely take the missing them away, but it does help. When my mother was in hospice, she was laying in her bed. And at this point, she could no longer respond verbally, and she had her eyes closed. She couldn't open her eyes anymore. And she was, sometimes people, when they're crossing, they'll leave their body ahead of time, like even days ahead of time, and until the body just finishes breathing. Sometimes they stay in until the last minute. My mother chose to stay in until the last minute. And I know this because she would mouth words and move her eyebrows up and down to people coming in and saying, hi, Phyllis. And she'd go, and it was appropriate.
Right.
People would say something and she would respond. And there was even one story that I told that she didn't like, and she was grimacing and frowning with her face because she was listening to me and she wanted me to shut up.
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting in the recliner, I'm the only one there with my mom. I see the room misting. Was this misting from floor to ceiling, side to side. I've since have learned that that's called ectoplasm. It is a portal for spirits. I've seen it several times before in my lifetime. And I could see movement on the other side. Hi, Donnie. And and so I sometimes would see a shoulder or pant leg or, partial things sticking out. And I tell this part too, they don't show up naked. Nobody wants to see their sibling or father or mother show up naked. They do show up in clothes. They usually show up in either what they've been buried in or what you remember them in last. They come in a form that you would be familiar with. And by the way, the median age on the other side is 35, whether you're a child or an elderly person. But they will come in as you remember them last. So my mother,
and they can switch back and forth, not interrupt you, but they can. Yeah. So if somebody says that a child you lost as a baby is coming through at the age they would be, that's fine. They can do that, but they can also come back like your dad is holding a baby. Did you lose a baby? Don't be confused by that, because they can switch to, as Lynn said, what you would recognize them at, or at the time in your life you need to see them at. That sounds so funny, but it also has to do with your consciousness and what your consciousness will accept. Yes, what you will accept at the time, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yep.
when she was crossing, it started to efface on the end towards the head of their bed, which is where usually the angels kind of come in around the head chakra area, around the top part of the head of the bed. And they were coming in, and in that I see my grandmother walk in, my mother's mother, and she looked the exact same as I remembered her. She had this tight little frizzy curly perm that she had back in the 80s, and she had her leisure suit on that she had made herself, and she even presented with glasses on. So, I mean, she looked the exact same.
She didn't need them.
No, of course not. But the thing was, is she, and that was the funny part, is that she still presented with them because she knew that that's the way that I would recognize her. So when she came in, she came over to my mother's bed. I was on the opposite side of the bed in a recliner, and I'm watching this, and my grandmother starts stroking the inside of my mother's forearm, and she leans forward to my mother and says something in her ear, and my mother starts doing the eyebrow thing and the mouthing thing as my grandmother stands away. And then she goes forward and she does it again. My mom's responding again. So my mother's hearing my grandmother. And from behind her, I see this frantic wave, which was my beautiful sister Robin that was murdered by a jealous boyfriend shortly after she had turned 20 years old. And I could smell her perfume. It filled the room. She wore a perfume called Latisse back in the 80s that was unusual, but I could smell her. And she came around from the misting and actually came and embraced me. And I could feel her hair falling across my face and her essence. And I could smell her so strong. And when she went back to go around, the whole wall hit effaced. So I actually could look into what was happening on the other side. And they had set up this reception. There's some details I can tell you about that, but I don't know how long we're going to be going tonight, so I'm going to kind of get to the meat of it. When that love and elation comes from the other side, there are no words that can describe it. There's no feeling that can touch it. It's such a warm feeling. Like I said, it's just not even describable. But when you're involved in it, you can't help but smile. So I'm sitting there grinning from ear to ear, feeling all of this love and elation coming over. There's hundreds of people. There are beings there. There were angels. There were these beautiful, magnificent, very, very tall beings. They were the level of angels, but they didn't have wings. They were white hair, just luminous, gorgeous. I mean, their heads were skimming on the ceiling. And that's why I say that don't be surprised if you see other types of beings there that that come to help assist over. You may not recognize them from this lifetime, but you may recognize them from some lifetime. And that's another thing too. At the head of my mother's bed, at the head of my mother's bed, all of a sudden I noticed the spirits gathering around in like a football huddle, but it was like double layered over, like a peony flower almost. And when they opened up, my mother was standing in the center of it, almost like they were trying to stabilize her spiritual feet. And my mother was grinning from ear to ear, and all of these people were coming up and saying hello to her and embracing her. And a lot of them I recognized. A couple of my aunts and uncles, some cousins that had passed away ahead of time, my sister I did recognize. There were a lot of people there that I didn't recognize, but that my mother knew. And they came and they were all greeting her. And as that happened, then the room started to thin out. And I mean, this went on for a good 20, 25 minutes that I'm watching this room. And of course, I had the nurse come in the meantime, and she was pronounced that she was gone. And just to back up too, and just to say, before my mother took her last breath, I told her that Grandma and Robin were here to help her, to take her home and to go with them. And she literally stopped. She took her last breath in about 10 minutes. And she did the mouthing thing and the acknowledgement as well with that. But as the room started to thin out of these beautiful souls, my grandmother and my sister remained with her. And then these 5 other beings were kind of trailing behind her as they exited out to the left of me, of the room. And the thing is, I'm sitting there smiling in the room, of course, and when my mother took her last breath, and I'm looking over and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's the nurse going to think if she walks in and I'm sitting here grinning from ear to ear and my mother's passed away. But to me, my mother's not dead, because I can see her standing right there, and she's she's well and she's whole and she's not suffering from cancer anymore. And she's, I in that moment, I wanted to jump into that picture, not to be, not to be dead. I just wanted to go for the day and then come back, kind of thing. Because of course, I'm not afraid of dying. I will never be afraid of dying. I've seen so much of it. I will be ready to go when it's my turn. But I had a late life baby. I've got a 14-year-old that I need to finish my job with first before that time comes. But when she's grown, I'm good to go whenever my time comes. So, but just to see the connection and all of that. And my mother has come through multiple times. I mean, she comes through like a megaphone. And even this Christmas, the holiday, our tradition is making cookies and fudge and things like that and passing them out to people that we care about, neighbors and things like that. But I remember my mother coming through like a megaphone, and I had I was making the Christmas turkey, and I had never made the turkey before. And all of a sudden I hear her say, like she's standing next to me, "Don't forget the aluminum foil."
Oh yeah.
So, and of course I'm being egotistical, and I want one of those brown turkeys like the ones on TV. And so I didn't bother to put the aluminum foil on. I ended up with a burnt breast and raw legs, and we ended up having hamburgers for Thanksgiving. And of course I had to apologize. But there are other things too, and you can connect.
I got to stop you for a second because Ted Branson just jumped on that and said that sounds like a movie he saw in the 70s. What did you say? The raw breasts and burnt legs?
Burnt breasts and raw legs.
I guarantee Ted just went, hold on, repeat that, please. Right, Ted? But that was funny. No, that's sweet. Yes. I can see that happening.
Yeah. And there are other times too, and you can still communicate with them through meditation, and meditation is not always easy. You have to kind of practice at it, like with everything else, and train your brain. But there was one thing with the whole reception thing that I noticed. There was this table in the background that didn't have anything on it. And of course, they wouldn't have food for a reception. They don't eat there. But I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, don't you ever, miss the taste?" My mother made this unique potato salad and brownies. And I'm like, "Don't you ever miss the taste of your brownies and your potato salad that you used to make?" And she comes through like a megaphone and she says, "Well, here we don't eat." She said, "Everything we do is through thought. If we want to go somewhere, we think of it and we just go. When we think of our loved ones, or you think of us, we go. We just go. And we're there." And she said, and the thing about food is, she says, is if we want to experience something from the planet that we came from, Earth, or any other for that matter, she said, all that we have to do is think about it, and the flavor and the sensation comes to us as if we are eating it. So, without the calories and stuff. And I was kind of thinking, wouldn't that be a great thing here? So you still get that. You just, the sensation comes to you, and the flavor, if it's something that you enjoyed, you're able to do that through thought. And everything is done there through thought.
Everything is done through thought. Yeah. And that's exactly, again, this is absolutely, Ted said, hang on, I never said a word. I understand, Ted. But, telepathically, I was picking it up. Ted. I know you were going to jump on that one. Just making you all laugh on Christmas. And and for all of our wonderful, people over in the UK, we are sorry that this is like 2:00 in the morning there. God bless you for being here. And I'll tell you what, you are welcome here anytime. And we are so glad you came in. We know it's late. But if you're receiving this message now, either you know this, and this is just reinforcing what you already know. You're also in here reinforcing in the chat that and that you're agreeing with what we're saying for other people who need that a little bit of extra backup and a little bit of extra, it's absolutely, because when this is it, we are doubting people. We're human beings, and we're here thinking through human thought, and light workers are always trying to elevate to the next level of consciousness. We're trying to get that vibration a little bit higher and a little bit higher, trying to rise above this earthly nastiness. And it's so hard for us. And that's what I was talking about with the light. We have a little candle, and sometimes that flame flickers. Sometimes it goes out completely. We need another light worker to help us relight it and remind us why we're here. You're right. I'm going through this dark time, and you're absolutely right. That's when my light should be the brightest. And it feels like it feels like it's getting put out because we go through so much, and we are earthly beings right now. We are in this human form, and it's so hard. But when we get over to the other side, we get those past life memories. We start to receive that information and that education from those lives, and whatever you want to call it, your DNA memory, your soul memory, it all starts coming back together. And we also have people there who help us sort it. We're not just left on our own
That's
here.
true. No.
And and on the other side, we have that help, but we have that help here too.
We
So
do.
many people in this chat that I've been able to catch and stimulate. I don't know. He says he can't put his finger on why over the last 10 years, relatives have died all in September, except one, and that person's birthday was in September. I don't know if that's a life cycle. I don't know, Stimulate, but what I can tell you is this, and Lynn's free to comment as she, of course, as she wishes. But as far as, I think we just lost Lynn for a second, or maybe her phone has gone dead. But what I would say is this, there she's back. Are you okay, honey? You're going in and out. Take your time. If you can still hear me. Somebody's who? It's okay. Take your time, sweetheart. So, when we do these things called soul contracts. Now, other people have different names for them, but I'm just going to use that one to make it make sense. We're in this like soul group, and I can't tell you who's in that soul group. It might be your entire family. It might be a good friend. It might be, some outsider who comes in at a certain time. And, it doesn't have to be just family and loved ones. You back? You let me know when you're ready. So what happens with that is we make these deals. Like, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then I'm going to leave then, and that's going to cause this, and that's when you come in and leave. We make these agreements ahead of time. It may be something like that, a soul cycle or something everybody agreed upon. I don't know too much about, the timing of that as far as September. And I'm not going to pretend I do and just make up an idea, but that's what comes to my mind when I read that comment. It has something to do with the soul contract. But of course, that's just me giving you what I got when I read it. It makes sense to me. But I do, specifically for your case, I couldn't tell you, for sure one way or another, but that makes sense. It feels right for that comment. Somebody's already decided to do that. Why they picked September, I do not know. But I guarantee you, if they did pick that, it's because every event that happens is like a pebble dropped in a still lake. Does that make sense? So what happens when you drop that pebble in that still lake is it causes ripples. And they come very quickly at first. They're very easy to see. It does. Is your birthday in September too? Well, here's the deal. You kind of just, the way I would look at it is like, of course you're going to think about it because it's in your mind, and anything you try not to think about, like don't think of an elephant, you're going to think of an elephant. But what you can probably think of is, as I'm explaining this, when you drop that pebble in the still pond, the ripples come very quickly close to that drop, to that event. Okay. And as they move away, they get further and further apart and harder to see, but they spread out. Yeah. And what I mean by that is that event happening in September, for everybody it involves, is affecting each person a different way. Either it's a fear, it's it kind of become like almost like a stigma now, because everybody in that, it's like, oh gosh, so here comes September, oh gosh, I hope, nothing happens. Maybe it's a way that those people are growing. It's something that they have to go through, because everything that happens to us, the craziest little things all seem to have that effect, and that ripples out. It's like this show. This show, we don't have 1 million subscribers, and that's fine. This show is what it is. I don't change anything. I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. I'm not telling you that this happened and it didn't. We're putting it out as is. This is it. It's not it doesn't have a lot of fancy effects and everything else. I've got, It's just like I said, it's the, hot mess express. But we're sincere and we're trying to give you, I think she's back. Bless her heart. She's upside down and sideways. Here we go.
Hold
Here we
on.
go. Take your time, sweetheart. You're good. You're good. You take your time. It's okay. Take your time. Like I said, it's Hot Mess Express. All aboard. Woo woo. We're fine. But I was talking about ripples. I didn't know what you heard. But my guess is if the event is happening and it's that profound in your family, in your circle, then more than likely there's a definite reason for it. Either people have to go through dealing with, not worrying about stuff and just going on with life or whatever it may be. Because here's the thing. Some souls just have to go through, say, one more thing to elevate to the next level, whatever you want to call that, frequency, the vibration, whatever, and might come through as a child who just lives a couple of hours or a couple of weeks. Well, why would that soul choose that? Because that's the one thing that soul has to go through. And when they're choosing that on the other side, they already have all the information about what it's going to do and what they did before and everything else. When they come through as a child, of course, that child just knows a perfect life. It only knows that it was loved for that amount of time. It didn't have to go through anything else. It's, this horrible world that happened. It just knew that love from that mother and everything else. So led a perfect short little life, bam, and gone. But that's not all that life did. It affected the mother. It affected the parents. It affected the nurse, the doctors, the people that were around it. That little life resonated out like that little pebble that was dropped and all those ripples. And everybody had to deal with it. And that's what that soul chose to do at that time. It's very odd when you look at it that way, but then you back off and get that 40,000 foot view and you can see the ripples affect everybody. And like when Lynn said earlier, it might not be when you go over there, you might not recognize, or she didn't recognize everybody her mother recognized, but her mother recognized them. So it was from another life, or it could have been, somebody they just met in, a short time in their life, like in the 5 people you meet in heaven. Everybody he met had a profound effect on his life, or he had a profound effect on theirs, but he didn't even remember until they just started describing things, who that person was. And also something Lynn said, again, the 5 people you meet in heaven, great book, terrific movie. John Voight, I think, plays the lead in that. Great stuff. But also something Lynn mentioned, that when they got over there, the one, his wife who had passed before him, she liked to go to weddings. So she was at this wedding when he was talking to her. He says, "Is this heaven?" She goes, "No, this is my heaven right now. This is where I want to be. So this is what you want to see. This is what you're seeing, what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing. I just thought it, and here it is." And the next thing, they were on the beach. She moved him to the beach. And you see this a lot in movies for, about the afterlife that actually get it right. That it seems like that's how it is. So if your heaven is a cabin in the woods fishing, that's what you're going to have. Dark Horse is saying hello. Hello, Dark Horse. Welcome in. So I hope that answers a little bit about your question. Again, with spirits, everything Lynn is saying, I 100% agree with. And I could bring 100 people in here that had an NDE, and they're going to say the same thing, or you're going to get pieces of it, and we can put all that big puzzle together and try to get the cover to the box, and you're going to get more and more and more. Like Ms. Young here is saying about how she's had people come and visit her in her dreams. Absolutely. People come to you right after their death. Again, that happens in the Ravine, the movie. That I guess if the mods could drop that one more time, I'll try to drop it again for that movie, because one of the guys is saying, "Oh, this person came to me," and this is what he said, "But I could hear her voice, but her mouth wasn't moving." Again, telepathically. So many of us have that experience where a loved one or somebody we know comes to us and they don't. I've had that many times, Hey, welcome to Lead the Light Productions. Welcome. And everybody out there, welcome in. If we missed you, we're so glad you're here on this beautiful night, or early morning in some cases. But our main thing tonight is to let you know that over there in the afterlife, our loved ones are busy. They're doing things. They're learning. They're teaching school, believe it or not. They're
Mhm.
giving classes. This is what I learned about this. And people go and they, like kind of they take the class or they want to hear the lecture or the talk, on what they went through. It's a constant evolving of your soul. And when you get there, it's like everybody's just so glad to see you. And they're so proud that you went through this and you did this, and you did that. And, it's almost, in some cases, I believe that even some of the bad things, it's like, wow, you picked to do that. You went through it, but you pulled out of it. This is what you did with it. You got back up and, we're interested to see what that was like. And in the movie, The Ravine, they get to the end part where everybody's really kind of understanding what's going on and going on inside of them and how to deal with all of this. And there's there's so many profound things at the end that just everything clicks together. But one of the main things is how we get through tragedies. And so many of you in here right now are talking about tragedies, having a loved one that was killed. That's one of my main things I talk about, that and suicides and things like that. The way I understand too is in your soul contract or whatever you want to call it, names are hard. Labels are tough because it makes us think that that's the only thing that can happen. And that's not what I'm saying. But when you do, you plan out your things, you usually have 3 exits that you can leave. And that's why you have people that have like a car accident or something and didn't go at that time. You might have had that choice while you were struggling to stay or go. You might not want to call it a whole NDE, but you are wrestling with that whole thing. Do I come back and fight, or do I let go and just give up and go and cross over? You have a lot of those. I don't think suicide is ever won, but that doesn't mean that suicides don't cross. That is the biggest bunch of, and I'm going to say it right here, bullshit I've ever heard in my life, because I know many suicides that have crossed over. The only thing, like Lynn said in the beginning of this, that keeps you from crossing is you.
That's true. And as far as suicide goes, suicide is never, ever, 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 ever something to be considered. However, I will add this. It is similar to a sudden death, which is different. They don't get all the reception and everything. The people with sudden death, they do get a reception. However, it's after they've come to terms with the fact that they have crossed over. A lot of times it would be a little overwhelming to have the whole hundreds of people and your animals too coming to greet you, and you're sitting there begging to take one more breath and crawl back into your body. So you have to go through those steps of grieving, even on the other side, and acceptance that you have crossed, and then you get the reception. The thing about suicide is when it's due to mental illness, when it's due to even medical assistance for someone who is going to, they've got a terminal illness that's going to take their life within a short period of time. Medically assisted suicide is seen differently because the death is coming. Suicide that is done out of spite or to get even with someone or to avoid facing the music on someone and something is never, ever, ever, ever acceptable. And it is frowned upon. You do still cross over, but you're placed in kind of a holding area. For that matter, a guide does come to collect you, and it's somebody, usually not from this lifetime, but a guide that you will recognize from the other side because you aren't intermingled with any of your family. A lot of times you do have that life review. And let me just say this, not only does a suicide, it's a very, very selfish act on this side, it is also a very, very selfish act on the other side, because the contract that you've agreed to do here in the paths, there are so many other souls that are counting on you to be here to do your part, like children that need to be born, for certain rings. And then you decide to exit and they don't get their chance to come through and do the wonderful things and the rippling effect of their life into the future. So it creates a negative rippling effect here as well as on the other side. Again, those spirits are waiting to come in. However, you don't go to hell. And for suicide, a lot of times the suicide, when it's done out of spite, you are shown kind of what your future will be. You get that aha moment of, oh, if I had only known. Yes, you will be schooled. As Cisco said, there is schooling over there. You will be schooled and you will be sent back in. You might be sent back in as a walk-in. You might be sent back in as a baby and live out your life in a situation similar to the one that you existed in that could even be worse. So you might even be sent to a different solar system if that's where you could meet your goals. Because again, there are many, many solar systems out there. There are a lot of people like us out there and a lot of other kinds of beings out there too. And that's why I say, that there are what I consider, I don't want to say alien, because alien, everybody thinks of the little green guys with big heads. They're
almost extra dimensionals. It's almost, there's both. There's other planets and there's also other dimensions. So it's so much bigger.
It is. And it's
so much bigger.
But yet it's all connected.
Yes.
Too. It's all connected. So, there are those types of beings there, but you don't get the reception with a suicide. You are held responsible for what you created and the rippling effect of that. And you are sent back in. And you are then brought back up to that point in lifetime where you can have the choice to do what you did again or to go forward and complete your contract. So, yeah. And as Cisco said, there are multiple exits. There are the 3 exits in a lifetime that you can choose to exit or not. But if you pass that time frame, you don't get a get out of jail free card and, pick another time yourself. You have to wait until the next opening occurs for that.
True.
Now, when you get to the end, when you're done, you're done. So when your contract is up, you're finished. So, whether it's a murder, a car accident, an assisted suicide for chronic illness, anything like that, it's done. And it's unfortunate that sometimes things have to end tragically, but understand that even though that they occur tragically sometimes, they would have gone anyway. It was their time to go at that time. And also, you just never know if they might be meeting a karma, and it's awful.
Karma's huge.
Yep. As awful as murder seems, maybe the person murdered the other guy in another lifetime.
That's what I was waiting for you to hit on, because man, that when I learned that years ago, I was like, what? And I had to really think about it. But if you're over there on the other side, like I said, and and you're with your people, you're with your soul group and you're with your enlightened beings and all this other stuff. And again, it's a lot wider. It's very much like Lynn says, there's multiple different beings there, and just imagine it's amazing. And you're feeling like you've got a lot of get up and go and you're giddy up, it's like, oh yeah, I'm give me one of those and I'll take some of that and give me an abusive parent and make him an alcoholic, and I want this over here because I want to learn all this in one time and try to take all this in this lifetime so I don't have to do it again. I'm gonna try to finish now. Here's the kicker. Sometimes if you were murdered by someone or killed or by accident, whatever, you might come in on the other side of that and be the one that does the killing or be the one that's the abusive.
That's true.
So you can learn what it's like to be that person on this side. So you can take that in your big ball of learning in your soul. And when you get to the other side, you've got that as well. That's a trip to think about, because you'd ask yourself, why would somebody choose to come in? And I don't mean any disrespect when I say this. Why would someone want to come in as, like, say, autistic and disabled or in some way, disabled, like blind or whatever? Why would somebody choose that life? Well, what if in another lifetime they were a person that thought that those people had no reason to live? That they wanted to take out everybody that was infirmed or disabled or blonde-haired or blue-eyed or dark-haired or whatever. And they had to learn, and to elevate their soul, they had to come in and choose to come in as a person like that so they could learn what it was like to be that person and learn unconditional love and learn to have to be cared for and everything else. So their soul could heal and finish growing to the next level.
Yep, that's very, very true.
It's so true, isn't it?
It is. And in addition to that, I agree with everything that Cisco said. In addition to that, sometimes too, they come in out of love from their hearts to help people around them learn lessons. Maybe they're not, they can come in for lessons for them, but there are certain higher beings that are sent in to teach you lessons. So a lot of times when you see maybe a child that comes in with Down syndrome or something like that, those beings are usually very, very high, very pure souls that come in to help other people learn lessons and things that they need to learn, compassion and love and and
very much
caretaking.
like animals.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very much like animals, and that's a high honor. I don't mean that
It
in a
is a
bad
high
way.
honor.
That is a high honor, and we love you too, Ted. We love you. We love you all. I mean, we don't just say that. We're putting out love right now because the internet can be used for so many things, and a lot of times it does spread a lot of really nasty stuff. We're trying in a real, in our own little way to put out as much love and light as we possibly can, and to give you guys hope. And this is a hard day for a lot of people. I'm surrounded by spirits that are crossed over on the other side, and every year it just keeps it more and more and more, and it's so hard in the in the dead of night, and you're there by yourself trying to remind yourself that they're all around. So tonight I want you to, if you feel like it and you feel like your consciousness is open to it, right before you go to sleep, speak out to your spirit guides, either in your mind or out loud as you feel. Whatever you feel is right is right. If you want to write it down and put it under a candle and light a white candle and send it up, you do whatever feels good for you, because it's the process of doing it. It's the intent. And you ask your guides to please send through, say, a cat you lost or a dog you lost. Start with an animal, because I think they have a little bit of an easier way. This works with people as well, but if you want to start there, and ask for your spirit guides to bring that animal forward, and do it 3 or 4 times, for 3 or 4 nights in a row. I'm glad. Light your candle, darling Ted, and ask them to come through. And if you skip a night, if you forgot, don't say, oh darn, I got to start over. No, just do it again, because your guides cannot help you unless you give them permission to do so.
Yes.
They're going to be right there, and they're going to say,
Yes.
just ask for help and we can try to help you. They can't do it for you, but they can guide you. There's guides.
Yes.
They're not spirit doers, and you have free will.
It's like the
right?
genie with 3 wishes. They
Yes.
will stand by and let you learn your lessons, and they love to help, but you do have to help. Ask them to help, and again, be specific. Be specific. It is so important. I just wanted to say one thing
We love
really
your
quick.
niece.
I have my spiritual family. We've got Chris and Kristen from Dark Horse Paranormal. I've been wanting them
darling.
to meet you, Cisco, very, very much. And also there's Greg from Led to the Light Productions.
Hello, Greg.
And I wanted all of them to meet you. I'm sure that Anne Marie is out there and Reginald is out there.
Love to have you guys on the show. Come on sometime.
Yes,
please do.
Amazing. They are amazing people, and I'm sure that they'd love to have you on theirs too. So I've been telling them about you as well. So they're here, and I'm so
Let's
glad.
set that up. Let's get you guys on. We'll talk about it, Lynn. Get them on. Maybe we could do a group. I'd love to do more of those, because I love to have that insight. We're all learning here. We're all learning from each other. I say some things like, I absolutely know this. It's because 55 years now of seeing the same thing and over and over and over again, and reaffirmed from the other side, and from very talented people with that are wise beyond anything I'll ever be, and more abilities and everything else. But everybody is starting to connect at this time, and I don't know, I'm sure the internet and it's easier to connect with people, and talking about it, of course, is bringing all that to the surface. But I also think it's a time, Lynn. I think that there is an ascension now. I think we're moving into a new time, a new ascension as a collective, as a human group. And I think that our minds are able to accept more in this consciousness level, and it's just coming like a flood. And everybody is connecting in. and it's amazing. And I would absolutely love, get in touch with me, please. Any, journey through the gate at gmail.com. Lynn, connect us up. We can maybe do a group next Sunday. I'd love to do that because I want to get everybody's impressions in here. Everybody's got a piece of this little puzzle, and we're not even sure what we have. We think we see the things clearly. Go ahead, sweetheart.
We might have to do something a little bit different because several of them have podcasts on, and some of them are on Sunday. So maybe if we can arrange to do something on a day that everybody is available, it might not be a Sunday. But they're all very, very gifted people. We've got
love to hear it.
very, very gifted people, and each in their own individual way. And the way that everybody comes together as a whole, it complements one another. There's no competition. Everybody supports one another. It's very loving. Wonderful. And they're going to love you. So because you're right there, and Steve also. I would love for Steve to meet Reginald because Reginald. He just does so many things that Steve also does, is interested in.
So excited. I love that when like-mindeds get together, and again, we all have a little piece like that. One person might have that link that links to big ideas that we've had for a while. Like, yes, it does connect, and I think that's what's happening more and more. Like I said, I think it's the internet, but I also think it's the time. I think we're ready for a lot of answers. And I think we're trying to get the answers so we can reach out to people. We have people in here that said they've been crying all day. I understand that. And that's the thing. The only thing I can tell you about that is once you get that out, that's a process, and you just get it out. Hello, William, welcome in. It's you follow it with laughter if you can. Follow it even if you're on your knees on the floor and you've got both hands full of carpet and you just want to try to laugh yourself off the floor. Try to think of different things, with that person that made you laugh, and it is hard, Ted. Ted said earlier that it's hard to just remember the good things. It is hard. I'm not saying forget the bad, but I'm saying try to finish it with a laughter, even if it doesn't have anything to do with that person. Tell yourself a silly joke or something, because you want to lift yourself out of it, and you also want to lift that person out of it as well. I had a thing with my dad, and I don't know if I've told this story before, but I did a little experiment. I was talking to a couple of my friends that are very much like Lynn, lots and lots of abilities. And my dad came through in a reading that I was having with my mom was the main one, and my sister and we were talking about some other stuff. And I said, well, hold on a minute. Nobody ever talks about my dad. Now you got to understand, if you read my book, We Are All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife. First of all, I named it that because I feel like it's the last frontier. It's what it's like, we're not sure. We're getting pieces and we're putting together a beautiful picture, but we still won't know till we're there for sure. Right. For us. So it's kind of like we're going in innocent, like kids, not that we are innocent, but we just don't know. And that's what I meant by that. But in that book, I tell a lot about my dad, and my dad was World War II vet. And he covered up a lot of those memories of alcohol, and unfortunately alcohol mixed with everything he had going on, and they're very Scottish. And he was just abusive and violent, and lots and lots of back then they called it shell shock, and it's PTSD, and also we were in a haunted house that I think fed on that, and he fed them, and it was just a whirlwind of combustion of violence, and lots of negative energy running around in this house, and you can read that in the book. But he had, as far count that we count, 9 kids. I guarantee it's closer to 30, because the more I meet, he got around a little. He got around a little bit, and a handsome devil that he was. And I'm the youngest, and anybody in my family that talks about him basically spits his name, or if they speak it. And everybody's got a right to this. I don't take away anybody's, they all have their own memories and they got to deal with their stuff. But I thought to myself, you know what? Here we go. You can't blame a rock for being a rock. You can't make a rock a tree. Boy, I wish this person was like this. Okay, great. They're not going to be that for you. I can only be me. I can learn. I can try to change. I can try to make myself better, but you can't make a rock a tree, and you can't change them. I mean, I don't know how many people I know, and I was one of them, that finds that person and says, I can change this person and make them, there's something in there worth saving. So I can go through all this just to help that. Sometimes you can't. Just know that.
Yes, that's true. You got to set
So
those boundaries.
sometimes, yeah. So with my dad, no, everybody was cursing him. And again, I don't befault them for that. But I thought, let me try something different. When he came through with my mom, now the way this medium worked, she recognized my mom's energy. She had no problem talking to my mom and sending back and forth, messages and everything else. And we just had a great talk back and forth, very simple. And I said, hold on a minute. I want to ask about dad. And she says through the medium, she said, oh, he's not here. And I said, well, I'd like to talk to him. Nobody ever talks to him. And I want to know how he's doing. I mean, I last saw my dad when I was 3. Okay. Last time I talked to him was the day my mother was buried. I was like 11, 12. And he calls. That was the first time I ever heard, wanted me to move to Greece to live with him. I passed out on the floor. That was it. That's all my body could take that day. I remember just handing the phone to my aunt and just, I was gone because it was too much for my mind to take at the time. So I missed the opportunity to talk to him. So I'm going to talk to him now. So I decided what I was going to do. She pulls him. My mom says to the medium, he's not here. I said, well, I'd like to talk to him. She goes, well, I'll go down and get him, my mom says. And right away, I look at the medium. I go, no, tell her don't go down there to get him. That's okay. I'll wait. She sends a medium and I start laughing. And she goes, no, he's not there. He's on a lower, he's vibrating on a lower frequency. That's the way she explained it to me. I'm like, aha, because my mom's vibrating up here. My dad's vibrating down here. I said, okay, that makes sense to me. So I guess basically she just almost pulled him up by his ear, Well, here he is. And she's describing him to me. She says his head is down. He won't lift his head. And I said, well, can he hear me? She goes, yes, he hears you, but he can't speak. And I'm putting all these things together and I'm like, okay, I get it. And I'm thinking about it and I'm researching it. And I'm like, okay, his soul is so wounded by the things he did and the things that he caused. And as to atone for, it's like he can't lift his head. He can't speak out of shame, out of energy, whatever. So I did a little experiment, Lynn. Every time I thought of it, I sent him happy thoughts and energy. Happy thoughts and energy, Dad. I'm going to send them to you too. I said my mom, my dog, and happy thoughts and energy. I'm in the shower and I'm like a lunatic. Happy thoughts and energy to you, and I'm naming people and I'm sending love. I did this for a year, about 10 months to a year. Go back and I see this. I go to class and I see this one medium again. We sit down, we have a little talk. In comes my mom, because my mom always took this opportunity to come through because the path is so clear with this medium. And at the end of the talk, we were actually there for somebody else. My mom brought in somebody for this other person I was with, which is great. And she says, well, wait a minute. There's somebody else here. There's a man here. He's in uniform. I said, okay. She started to describe him. And as she's describing him, I said, well, now it could be 2 people. And I said, can he say anything? And she said, he lifts his head. She said, he lifted his head and he said, I would not have been a good role model for your sons. I said, oh, that's my dad. And I said, he's in uniform. She goes, yeah, it's like, I said, describe the uniform. She described a Class A Army uniform with medals. Mm-hmm. And I said, he found something to be proud of. He found something to click into that gave him that energy. She says, no, you've been sending him energy. What? Mm-hmm. Let that be a lesson. There's a lot in that story that can teach you about these things. Did I just lift him or did I lift me too?
Both.
Did I lift him and everybody that was around him? Because isn't that what we're supposed to do when we get to the other side? When you watch Ravine, it's going to connect with so many people in this chat. Because that's one of the messages in this story about this tragedy, how it affected everybody and what happened on the other side. And that is exactly what Lynn and I are talking about. This movie was a gift. It's something I think my guide sent for not just me, but for every one of you. And Lynn, I'm going to tell one Christmas spirit story if that's okay with you, but I wondered if you had any more on that you'd like to share before I tell that story I promised I would tell. Hey, Gray Wolf, welcome in, Lindsay.
On which thing?
On, the energy and, this
Energy.
experiment. Each time he came through, he was able to say a little bit more, and he was able to walk with a little bit more, with his head up, and a little bit more, I guess, I don't want to say pride. I think that's the wrong word, but a little bit more, I don't know. I don't know what the right word would be.
Well,
it was an obvious difference.
Yeah, it's definitely sending the energy. I mean, people that you're even on this earth that you're sending the negative energy to, they pick it up on other levels, and they do carry it. And that's why it's important also to protect yourself and kind of, put a shield around you. I wanted to mention one more thing about the other side, because a lot of times people ask the questions about, well, what about people like Hitler? What about people like Henry, that Dahmer fella that was eating people? What happens to those people? And actually, they are held in a cocooning type thing, because
thank you, Ms. Young.
even though the things that they did are horrible, they were sent as a catalyst in some ways, for awareness. And sometimes they went farther than they were supposed to. And it was also that, in their life review, they wouldn't be able to stand to go through a life review until their energy level would come up, because of all of the pain and the agony and the feeling of the things that you did. So a lot of times, some of those are actually cocooned for a little while their body kind of goes through a healing, if that makes sense. And then
that soul heals. Yeah.
And then they have a lot of schooling and things to go through afterwards. And, but sometimes they're in that cocoon for a long time.
Good self-worth. Yeah. That's what I felt. And that's good, because once I understood that we chose this, if I agreed in my soul contract to have that dad and go through what I went through, I tried to find things. I mean, I literally stood in my shower. I don't know why I do this in my shower. I think it's because I'm something about the running water. I don't know what it is, but I feel like it throws that energy out more. And, I said to him, you know what? At least you picked strong women. You picked great women, because they raised great kids against a lot of odds. And boy, you could pick the good ones. My mother was fantastic. And, my sister's mom was terrific. And he was married 7 times that we know of. I mean, it was a lot of good women that he picked. But, here, that was the thing. Everybody looked at it different, and everybody blamed everything, on him. But you know what? Everybody had a choice there. We all had choices.
They chose him.
And if we chose it on the other side, and I agreed to it over there, how am I going to be mad here? I have to stop and now look at it and go, what was I supposed to learn from this? Because I don't want to go through it again. I don't want to come back here and go through this again, because I broke the cycle. I break the cycle. Break the abuse cycle, break the addiction cycle, break the, oh, what was me cycle even.
Yes.
Why me? Why me? Well, honey, you picked it. Why did you pick it? Does that make sense?
Yes. And not
what
only
are we
that,
supposed to glean from it and let it go?
That's true. Yep. And not only that, the why me brings you more why me.
Yeah.
So it's a cyclical thing.
Oh gosh, it does. It's almost like you're calling it like that. It's that little thing that positive brings positive, negative brings negative. And you also put out in the universe, it comes back to you. Absolutely. So if you're that person, we all have them at work or wherever you might be, those energy vampires that they don't even realize they're doing it. You walk in a room and you just feel like, oh my gosh, 10 minutes with this person, that person that calls, and just feel bad. As soon as you pick up the phone, or as soon as you accept that conversation, you've allowed your energy to be a part of that. So what you do is just like, not today, find a different way. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Pardon me, I have to go and I'm in the middle of something. Cut it off. That's your energy. And nobody can have that unless you give it to them. So when you pick up the phone, there's somebody I know, I won't say who, but keeps connecting back into an abusive relationship with they like the chaos. They keep complaining about the chaos, but they won't get out of the chaos. They keep allowing it to come in. So cut it off and stop. Get rid of this year maybe coming up. Get rid of all the negative things that aren't doing you any good.
Yes, use this Capricorn new moon.
There it
Be
is.
sure to make your wishes, set your
Mhm.
intention for the year. This Capricorn new moon again on the 23rd.
Mhm.
You're still in the window. It's for 10 days. As you get
So
closer to
true.
the 10th day, it weakens with each day that
Mhm.
passes. Please, please, please be specific and get your intention set for the coming year. It is on the last lunar eclipse of the year as well. So
Mhm.
it has a rippling effect for over the next 6 months.
Mhm.
And yeah, please do that. Definitely. Make your 2023 what you want it to be.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if something doesn't work out, a lot of times something I heard once is, a lot of people don't like to use God. You can use source. We could say whatever we want to say. Things are going to be what they are, and we are all connected to this light source energy. I prefer to call it God. And we are all connected under that one thing. We're all connected in every dimension, in every planet, in all of it.
Yep,
Every
all
drop
of it.
of rain, every goldfish, every
Yep,
everything,
star seeds,
everything.
everything. Yeah.
And again, what Lindsay is saying here, it's tough to realize that, but once you do, you can stop and go, hold on, what am I supposed to learn from this? If I'm going through this, what am I going through it for? You've got people that just trip through. You've got older people, say old souls. They're all kind of old souls. There are new ones, but a lot of people are old. And you come through and you go, why do I want to be a blacksmith? Why do I want to make candles? Then I go to this thing and this thing and this thing. A lot of the older souls are very creative. They do a lot of different things in their life. And it's not because they're helter skelter. It's because they want to try everything, or their genetic memory remembers being a blacksmith or working with leather or doing these other things. And you want to re-experience that again, or your soul wants to see if you can still do it. So don't be on yourself if you're one of those people that jump from 1 month you're, making soap out of, from scratch, and the next minute you're decorating cakes. Just do it. Whatever makes you happy. You don't owe anybody an explanation. Just do it to the best of your ability and enjoy it while you're doing it, because a lot of times you're just getting that genetic memory out. Your soul memory is just re-experiencing something that it used to do. So that's fine too. We got to stop putting all these limits on us. But here's my quick story, because we got to go. This actually happened at Christmas. And as Lynn and I have said, when we've talked to each other, our moms have always been our best teachers in life and in death. My mom passed in 1976. And Christmas was always huge, and I held on to those Christmas memories because it was always big for her. No matter how bad off we were doing, she found little things. We always had a great time. So it's not hard to look at great memories with her. So this one year, my son he was in his late 20s, was in a horrible car accident 5-6 states away. And of course, I get the call in the middle of the night. I go out there. They don't tell you much on the phone. When I get there, he had a 15% chance of making it, and you could pretty much say he was mostly crushed. I think he hit a parked concrete truck doing about 75 miles an hour. It took a long time to cut him out of the car. From what I understand, he bled for a long time on the road before the helicopter got there. I have no idea how he made it that far. I do know. My mother was there. His guides were there. And I knew it without a doubt. And it was confirmed for me after. So for whatever reason, this was might have been his chance, one of those times to go. And, one of those exes we were talking about, don't know. But I can tell you that it was bad. All the paperwork, everything, doctors coming in, I get there, everything was already starting to settle. It was less than a day and a half. I would take 2-3 planes to get there. He was a mess. And when I walked in the room, I didn't walk alone. When I walked in there, I was physically by myself, but I had a lot of people with me. And I said, whatever we got to do, you got to help me, give me the strength to do whatever we got to do here, because either way, he's going to be surrounded in love. I walked in straight. I knew we had a battle. And I was battling a lot of physical stuff around me too, because of the people that were there. So When we got home, he made it. We went through multiple things to make sure he made it. And, he's a warrior, plain and simple. And I never left his side. He was 38 days in ICU. And he was about 3 months in the, he's in the hospital a long time, physical therapy and everything. And to get him cleared and out of that state and then bring him to where I lived so he can continue his physical therapy and everything. We landed here mid-October. And our first Christmas here, he had a traumatic brain injury. And at the time, he was getting seizures from anything that was any kind of flashing lights. Lights bothered him. So we eased into black and white TV because it doesn't have the flashes. So we're watching Harvey, which is a great movie if you've never seen it, on TCM. And it's, like I said, it's Christmas time, about a week before Christmas. And in between the two movies, they show these little clips of other Christmas movies. And this one happened to be a clip of Mario Lanza in The Great Caruso singing Ave Maria. And it just broke from Harvey, went into this. And as we're sitting on the couch, I look at my son and I say, that was Grandma Peggy's favorite Christmas song and her favorite singer. And I started talking about Mario Lanza, and I started talking about the song Ave Maria. And we even looked up what it meant, because I was telling him what the words meant and everything, how beautiful it was. And it was just a little thing and it was gone. But the whole time sitting on that couch, we were talking about her and this song. So flash up about a week. And I had helped this little store where I have a lot of my jewelry, is a gallery. They were doing a Victorian seance for Christmas. It's okay. And I had set up a medium that could do a seance in the Victorian way. And she had sold out this night. And they were bringing back the ghost stories on Christmas Eve and all that. It was really cool. Well, the medium got the flu. What do you do when you get a sick medium? So it's 2 days for a sold out event. So I sent out a blast and I said, anybody that's got free night on this night, I need a good medium that can do a Victorian seance and, kind of get the gist of it. And I sent it out to the guides in the universe. And sure enough, I got a couple of hits. And this medium that somebody else I knew, I had never met her. She calls on the phone. She's asking me well, what do you need me to do? And I'm like, well, here's all the, the details. And as she's talking to me, she goes, Cisco, I gotta stop you. She goes, I don't know you, but I'm guessing since you're doing this, you're open to this. But there's a lady here that she's not going to be quiet till I bring her up. And are you open to getting a quick message from the other side? I said, you better believe I am. Bring it on. So she starts to switch. She knows nothing about me. Okay. Now she starts to say, well, I have a lady here. She describes her. And I'm like, familiar, go ahead. And she says, this is your mom. And I'm like, sure is. And she said, and I just smiled. I said, keep going. She says, was she religious? And I said, not really religious, very spiritual. She definitely had a faith base, but I wouldn't call her religious. Why are you saying that? She goes, because she's singing Ave Maria. And I'm like, hold the phone. Okay, keep going. Tell her I got it. Is there anything else that she wants to say with that? I said, I connect with that. And she said, my mom said to her, oh, she understands completely. Just tell her I saw the whole thing when they were on the couch. She goes, that's still my favorite song. And she said, and I'm so proud of my grandson and everything the two of you did. And I was there that night. That's why he didn't bleed to death. And I said, I knew it, Mom. And then she comes through me and gave me a hug. The warmth that went through my soul, or my heart chakra, my whole body just warmed up. I'm on the phone still. I about dropped the phone. And I just felt so warmed up. And she just went right through me. And then she was gone. And she said, Merry Christmas. She's going on. And thank you so much for the memories.
Oh.
And she said, oh, by the way, she just gave you a hug. And I said, I know it. Thank you. They are there. They hear you when you speak of them. They see and know everything that you're doing. That ought to keep you straight. and they're going to tell you about it later. And when you love them and you send them love and energy, they hear it, they connect to it, and they feel it with you.
That's true.
Merry Christmas, each and every one of you.
Merry
True story.
Christmas.
I love you, darling.
Love you
I
too.
love
Thank
ya.
you so much, and thank you, everybody, for coming. And yes, definitely have to connect everybody up with your
Hey,
gifts.
Eric. Absolutely. I would love it. And I'd love to get Eric in on that too. He's such a wonderful, great podcast and everything. We have so many wonderful people here.
Hi, Eric.
And,
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I'm so open for that this year. I want to have more people come in group discussion. And let's take this to the next level, because everybody in here is ready to hear these things. And, we can take them. Don't keep them to yourself. Reach out. I'm going to let Lynn finish this night, but what I just want to say to you guys is, don't keep your light to yourself. Spread it. This is the time we need to spread it out there now. And you're going to get those things if you send it out to your guides to show you somebody that needs a hand, or needs just needs that next piece of information to get them through. Or just sometimes they just need an understanding, arm around their shoulder to say, I get it. I've been there, man. It's like that guy who jumped in the hole, to help his friend. What did you jump in here for? He said, because I've been in here before and I know the way out. I know the way out of this. And it's love. That's what we're here for.
True.
We're here to learn. And we're here to elevate our vibration. And we're here to love each other through the bullshit. I love you all.
That's very, very true. That's very true. And it's also those selfless, kind acts of love that matter. And even if it's for a person that's not receptive, you're always planting seeds. So when those seeds start to grow, you're going to be the first person that the person that was in denial even comes to for the information in order to broaden their mind. We have the Rube. I'm looking at the chat on my computer because I can't see it on the phone. We have so many talented people in the room tonight that are very, very of like mind and even just have so many amazing gifts.
Here it is.
Yes, it's a very, very healing. Yes, absolutely.
Please don't let this be the last time we get together. Everybody in this chat, please, it's Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, Mondays, Monday Madness with Steve. But I am thinking about adding another day. So please get with Lynn. Maybe give her 3 days. It might be good for you guys. Maybe we'll find a unit on one day. We'll get together. We'll do it separate, whatever we need to do. But let's make this year the year of reaching out, spreading the light and the truth about this earth here and this soul school, because man, sometimes we all just need to be reminded, this is just a bump and, we're all here together and we really are all one. And I wish you all a wonderful Merry Christmas, whatever you're celebrating, Hanukkah, everything. Just, be kind to you. Don't get so caught up in doing for everybody else. You forget to take care of yourself, because you got to keep those candles lit. Eat the good cookie. I love you, Lynn, my sister.
Love you too.
We're going to be doing this again. You're going to give me your days you're available, because I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'll have you as much as you are willing to come. And let's get these people, every one at a time or all at once. Let's do it.
Okay.
Everybody in the pool.
Thank you. Yay. Yay.
Merry Christmas, darling. I think we're on our way out of here. And
Yes.
please, before you
Thank
go,
you
tell them where to get your books again.
Oh, www.lynnmonet.com. All 3 books are available. 4th one's coming out the end of the month. Please don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up.
Thank you so much. I love you,
Thank
my
you.
sister. Merry
Love you
Christmas,
too.
darling.
Love you too, sis.
I can't believe your kitchen's so clean on Christmas. You should see mine.
It wasn't earlier. Trust me. I did all the cooking.
You're amazing. You're amazing. I love you, darling. Go get some rest.
Thank you. Love everybody.
Good night.
Okay.
Merry
Good
Christmas.
night. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.